Yeah, it's been a eventful day.
Who would have thought we'd still be together 2 hours later?
I know. Trying to set up live streaming is apparently harder than it seems.
We have no idea what we're doing.
I was so happy in my bed 2 hours ago.
Really taking advantage of your vacation time.
Well, the power went off, which is becoming like a reoccurring thing for some reason. I don't know why. So I just was like, might as well go back to sleep.
It helps if you pay your power bill.
We just like the entire city went down the other day. Like I had to drive like miles to even get cell reception.
Dang. That's crazy. Whole city didn't pay their power bill.
Oh gosh.
I like how the Ecamm live is over my face.
Yeah.
No, wait, wrong
Yeah,
way.
it's your forehead tattoo.
Whoa.
All right. Can y'all
There you
see
go.
the chat, or am I the only one who can see it?
I cannot see. Wait, yes, I can.
Yes, I can see that.
Woo, woo, woo.
Cool.
All right.
Hey,
Well,
Peter and Ross.
what's up?
So, yeah, today is Hotwire Day. I'm excited. Looks like we're still waiting on some new stuff like Strata, which it's going to be really confusing to like, is Hotwire even anything specific? It's just like the group of these things. Is that right?
That's what I kind of came to the realization of when I was reading the docs, because eventually I had to like stop watching the video. Like I tried to watch it and I just couldn't keep up. I don't know if I'm just on a vacation brain or.
No, it was a tough video to watch because it was just the voiceover going so fast conceptually while he's typing other things. And yeah, it was a lot all at once. Luckily, if you've ever done Cable Ready and, Stimulus Reflex, like it's pretty equivalent in certain ways. But it's definitely more integrated with Rails, which is nice. Like you get your format turbo stream responses that you can use instead of format.html and .js. But
I think for me, surprisingly, the video being so Rails specific didn't help me understand it as much as reading the docs, because the docs are more like, here's like a div or their actual like turbo frame, component with an ID, and like here's how it conceptually works, and like that was like, oh, like it just kind of felt like more low level. Where like the Rails stuff's really cool and I can't wait to use it, but like the helper methods for me weren't clicking.
And it's just you want to see the actual HTML, not the helpers to generate that HTML, because that's at the end of the day, the helpers are just helpers. They're not what does the work. So yeah, it's interesting to see that Turbo Links is dead now, and Turbo, and it's confusing because they call it Turbo and then it's Turbo Drive in the docs, and like pick one. But it is nice to see that now it will handle forms and all of that stuff. So they have examples in there of redirecting after a form submission and streaming after a form submission, which the stream response is the like error handling version, which has been broken since TurboLinks, originally shipped. So that's good. It's interesting to see that like this came out after 6.1. So is Rails 6.2 going to ship with this by default, or is this always going to be optional? And then like, is Rails going to still ship with TurboLinks and you remove it to use this? I don't know. It seems strange. It's definitely not finished. So maybe that's why.
Yeah. I have a feeling that TurboLinks will continue shipping the way it is, probably until Rails 7. I would imagine, because I think this still has.
There.
Whoa.
Well, I think this has like Oh, dude, I'm thinking about version 8, but I think this has like some more maturing to do, and I think that they'll leave TurboLinks in as is, and then because I feel like that's a major version change to like swap out TurboLinks for this. So I feel like
Yeah.
they'll have this out in the open. We'll find the issues with it, and then TurboLinks, or no, Rails 7 will have this on by default.
It'd be nice. There's all those things of like, let's fix the scaffolds so that they actually handle form errors out of the box and whatever. It'll be really nice to see that. And like Peter said, that it's Turbo is version 7, so it seems like they're just kind of renaming TurboLinks and just doing their strange version numbers, because what was it, like TurboLinks 1 and 2.5 or something, and then 5? I forget what the numbers versioning for TurboLinks was.
Yeah, I'm interested. I like right now that it's just a gem you bring in. The thing that like most clicked for me today when watching the video was when there was like the format.turbo, whatever it was, turbo response.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that's the way I've been writing my cable ready code recently, is that I've been using Rails UJS, so doing like remote true and hooking into format.js, doing head no content, and then just doing a bunch of cable ready commands. And so like it kind of felt like, oh, like my workflow's actually not going to change too much.
Yep, exactly.
So you think you're going to switch this out for cable ready? I think that's the hot take we have to decide.
Oh, I don't think, I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone at Podia. Like we've all, I think like every one of us shared it when it came into like when DHH tweeted it, but like we're really heavily invested in Reflex and cable ready. So like I could see us maybe adopting it alongside those things. I'm not sure we'll, at least right now, I haven't talked to anyone, but I don't know that we'll fully replace our usage of those tools. At least not cable ready.
Yeah. Yeah, in Jumpstart Pro, I've got a gem called TurboLinks Render, which is very small, but it handles the like form submission seamlessly in the current version of TurboLinks. So you don't have to do any magic, and all your forms get submitted with Ajax, and the responses are the exact same controller code for rendering the edit page with the errors, and then that just replaces the page contents with a TurboLinks snapshot. So it's a cool little like extension to TurboLinks to support forms. And all of that I'm going to get rid of and replace all that with this stuff, I think. So it'll be kind of interesting to go through and refactor all that. But, I never went and did like a full stimulus reflex or cable ready integration with it, because it the base features that Jumpstart Pro comes with doesn't really need a whole lot of this. I just wanted something to be mobile compatible. So back when the iOS and Android adapters would disable post requests, because those would clear out the CSS and JavaScript and re-render all of that and reparse it and repaint. So the intention with that was like, we'll get it mobile ready and we'll just use this library instead. And then those got abandoned, and then things went south, and I've been just waiting for new native stuff to come around. So it looks like this is going to be the way to go for that. And it is nice because you guys maybe eventually could ship a Podia mobile app, and it would be very similar to your web version, which would be kind of cool. But that stuff seems on hold until 2021 sometime. So we will see whenever that comes out.
Well, one thing that Julian Rubish said on Twitter that I really liked is using Hotwire for CRUD will get you like 80% of the way there, but then you can use cable ready for like surgical DOM updates.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like a world where they both can exist together.
Yeah, and I was talking to somebody about this earlier, that like the cable ready stuff has support for like notifications and morph DOM and quite a bit of like very specific things, whereas the Hotwire stuff is very much like append, replace, very small like basic things. So yeah, I imagine that cable ready will still be super useful for the additional like detailed stuff that you want to do. And actually, that makes me wonder the DOM diffing when they replace a piece of the like the frame. I'm guessing they just replace the HTML and they don't do any DOM diffing in Turbo or Hotwire or whatever we call it.
If you looked at, yeah, I guess I don't know really. There's no mention of it. The response is, just full HTML, and then it
Yeah,
just replaces what's in there.
I would guess not. But I haven't looked through which stimulus rails, stimulus, turbo. I guess it's in the turbo repo. But yeah. My sense is they don't do it. It's probably not. I wonder if it's just going to be interchangeable at some point, right? Like you could have it just say like diff is true, and then it could use morph dom or something to replace a frame contents or something. I bet you that wouldn't be too bad to make it like flexible in the future.
I guess it really just depends like how much HTML you have.
Yeah.
Because my kind of experience so far with Morphdom has been like it's really powerful, but there's also a lot of like little gotchas. And so like I would say a lot of my stimulus reflex kind of frustrations I ran into when I was first learning it was like, why didn't this just update? Like I'd perform an action and yeah, it would just be wrong. And it's because the Morphdom thought, oh, well, this element didn't change. And so I started doing just like terrible things. Like I would drop a secure random UUID into an element in ERB to force it to always update. And like my coworkers are like, we need to like get Jason fired. And so I would be cool if if HTML just swapping it out was enough. I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's what they're going to do. Keep it super simple and, try and do. I mean, there's no Webpacker here, which is fascinating. So you can write all your stimulus controllers in your good old asset pipeline and not have to worry about any recompile time and stuff. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see this. But there's so many concepts now that you'll have to wrap your head around. It's going to be like learning something new again. Turbo links, turbo drive, turbo frames, turbo streams, turbo native. Yeah, it's quite a bit.
Yeah. The one I'd actually like to talk more about the Webpacker stuff, but one thing that I don't think it's really gotten enough attention yet is the lazy loading of the frames, because one of the examples in the docs is like have a div and put a spinner in it and like have it have a URL, and when it loads, like it'll just replace it once it loads. And I was like, I write code like that all the time where I have to like have a spinner and then go replace it, and this will just do that for me. Like that feels good. I like that. So I want to just lazy load all the things.
Yeah, so DHH talked about the using ESM, which I assume he's talking about SkyPack, but that wasn't really covered in the video. So I wasn't really sure what they were referring to, unless I just completely missed something, because like the chat said, the video is like pure ADHD, like cereal for my brain.
Yeah, it's mentioned somewhere in here, I think. I was reading something earlier, but there's like a lot of docs to read through. Something was talking about including stuff, and it was using like SkyPack, I think.
SkyPack all the way. I guess we should.
Maybe I was reading that. Where is that now? The library that they're using for the imports. They have like a polyfill that they use, whatever that was called.
So I guess like to quickly define SkyPack, it's like load optimized npm packages with no install and no build tools, which is like baked into Snowpack, which I've been talking about for probably way too long. But SkyPack itself is just kind of like a way to like use like Node but like inside regular JavaScript that can like run on the browser. Because you can't like import confetti from Canvas confetti like in a script tag, but Skypack allows you to do that.
Yeah. I looked at it for the first time today. Like I heard you talk about it and other people talk about it, and I was like, Webpack or die. Not because I want to use it, just because Webpacker. But
Webpacker.
Yeah, just because it's
Webpack.
there. Well,
Webpack.
Well, I'm saying Webpacker is there, and that's why I want to use Webpack.
Oh.
I thought it was super cool that you could just be like import library from CDN and just roll with it. And
Peter pointed out that the library is listed in the Stimulus Rails gem, and it's called import maps. And yeah, I guess it takes care of the import mapping, so you can use that in your asset pipeline now, I guess. I wonder if I assume this will work for more than just the stimulus controllers. Like you'll be able to do that for any other code in your asset pipeline.
Let's talk about Matt's question. Will there be a full shift back to the asset pipeline?
I think that's DHH's intention, but you're not going to be able to do Tailwind and stuff like that. So I think maybe it'll be split, which is going to be awful.
Even worse than it is now.
Yeah, it's already split. And then you have people like who are like fierce on either side. It's like, come on, can we just have one? I want the golden path.
Well, the problem is
can't everything just be perfect? Come on.
Yeah, come on. Where's the utopia we were promised?
Webpacker was the promise of it, right? But it's
was it?
Well, in theory, right? Because you can control your styles and your JavaScript, but it kind of starts to. The more you need to do with it, for me, I just don't understand Webpack like I should, and it just kind of breaks down.
I do, and it still breaks down. I mean, I don't want to get into it. We don't really need to be bundling all this JavaScript. This is the time to
get into it. Go.
No. Like what? Like what part of it? It's a cluster, especially with the new Webpack 5. It's just bad. Just bad. I'm going to TM that. That's just bad. It's just way too much. And there's no golden path, which I think is the Rails, the beauty of Rails. This is one thing I'm going to talk about in my year in review, that I'm going to write, that I'm now saying out loud. So I have to do it. It's there's so much stuff that you can do, but everyone's doing it completely differently. So it's all kind of useless and it's all out of date super quickly. So I would love if DHH, I don't care who does it. If someone in the Rails community be this is what we're going to do. If it's the asset pipeline, fine. If it's Webpacker, fine. If it's Snowpacker, fine. Who cares? We just need one thing, and then we need to take all the tutorials of all the things we want to do, like Tailwind and Bootstrap and Material, and get it all on one thing. We just need one thing. There we go.
That's the one thing I miss the most out of Zencaster.
That reminds me of the old campfire days where you could type Vuvuzela or whatever, and it would play that across everybody's chat.
Yeah. But no, Matt's right. Matt's saying there's lots of expansion and we need some contraction. I agree. And that's the JavaScript community is just all over the place. It's terrible. It's so bad. And I did my deep dive. I can truly say that I understand Webpack now, and I can write Webpack config from scratch, which I don't even know if I'm proud of. But it's just I don't want to do it. It sucks. That's why we have Webpacker to abstract away that pain. And I want the pain to keep going away. But at the end of the day, you can only get so far because Webpacker is just wrapping Webpack config.
Yeah,
but that isn't. I still understand how that fits in with this Livewire stuff. A live Hotwire, not Livewire.
Oh my gosh, we've done it. You're a Laravel dev now. Our work here is done.
Oh no.
Yeah, and we know you're pretty disappointed it wasn't Hamel over the wire.
Yeah, I think that's a grave misstep, and honestly, I'm not going to pay for it now. You lost my business.
I'm just glad that like if there's anything I've gotten out of the like 40 or 50 episodes you've been on with us now is that you're the Hamill guy. Like I think
I didn't ask to be that guy.
I kind of did.
The world needed it. We needed a voice for the unspoken.
My team just like fully shifted into like only ERB in the future. So
I pivoted. I just joined a new team and it's all Hamill again. And I'm like, yeah. But then I have to remember how to write Hamill. So, there's pluses and minuses.
Interesting. I was just opening the Hotwire gem and there's no code in there. It's just a Rails engine that's an isolated namespace and that's it. It's funny.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, I love that.
No code. Hotwire
is like that.
Hotwire as a name is kind of strange because it's like we're just gonna give the whole ecosystem a name now, but it's not an individual thing anymore. Like TurboLinks was. That's strange.
Oh, Eleventy. Oh, Matt just said the Hotwire site's the Eleventy site. You don't need Eleventy. You can just use Bridgetown. There's my Chuck for Bridgetown.
Oh,
there's a lot of Hamill hate in the comments. I don't know. I don't like that.
Wow.
Just start banning people.
We're kicking. If you don't like Hamill.
Yeah, right. If there was a way I could award people money on this thing for not liking Hamill, I would.
I hate the hate. The haters. That's what you all are. So what else about this? So the video, I followed the video, although he was doing stuff in the editor, and I was like, "That's cool. How did he do that?" But that was a distraction.
The answer is text.
Oh dang!
Yeah, TextMate.
Turbo.js is like 3,100 lines of code in the.
Is it TypeScript?
Turbo Rails? No, it's just plain old JavaScript.
They
did port TurboLinks over to TypeScript, so it's interesting to see this is not in TypeScript. Yeah, that's what I thought.
That is interesting.
So I wonder if it'll still be or whatever. I guess doesn't matter. They just have their build
doesn't matter.
But this ships Turbo.js ships in the gems app assets JavaScript folder. So it's got to be plain JavaScript, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But Stimulus does not.
The one thing about TypeScript, I think it's easier to read, like not to write. I don't think it's easier to write, but it is easier to read because you're like, what does this object take? And you can just look at the TypeScript definition. So that I have liked about TurboLinks and Stimulus when I have like dug into the code a little bit. It's like, I wonder what this method takes. Oh, it's all right here. It's super nice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I just opened up the broadcasts.rb file here, and it's got, he showed the broadcast append to and replace and remove, but it actually does, it's got a broadcast prepend later too, and append later and replace later. So I'm guessing those kick off background jobs. Yeah. Yep. Turbo Streams broadcast job. And then they have this broadcast action too. So maybe you can use that to trigger generic events or something.
Wasn't broadcast action to in the video? What do you use? Like, so you had message, and every time you create a message, it would broadcast it to its like parent post.
Yeah, that might have been. I don't remember. I remember that part, but I don't remember what. That would make a lot of sense.
It was hard to keep up because for the obvious reasons, but then also like I feel like my kind of early days of programming like was like, don't use callbacks for anything that's like not related. I don't know. Let's just leave it. Yeah, don't use callbacks. Anything. Yeah. And then I'm watching this video where like the creator of Rails is like callback. And so I'm like having this like existential crisis and I can't even focus anymore. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's true because I remember not really understanding callbacks, and I was at a RailsConf and I got roasted at they're like, oh, so your entire app is callbacks, and I was like, oh, I guess so. So are callbacks good or bad now? I don't know. Used in moderation, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Um, yeah, I'm trying to see in here. It's kind of interesting to look at this code that registers like the turbo frame request. It just looks out for that turbo frame header, and that's all you got to do. And
Matt's saying, does anyone use Hey? I use Hey, but I use it like I use other email, which is not a lot.
You're the worst at email. And
yeah, I know.
I say that
I know.
with someone with 75-year-old parents.
Hey, I don't. Hey, we're not.
Was that a pun?
I'm not even going into that right now. A lot of JavaScript people are saying it's slow, and you know what? You know what's also slow? Getting a JavaScript project started up. So I don't want to hear their crap because I've heard it too.
I first saw people talking about it being slow today on Twitter. I was kind of like, being off work for me is dangerous. I just like browse Twitter all day, and I mean, it's not like the speediest thing I've ever used, but
it's also a work in progress.
It's never been a thing for me where like I use the shortcuts to go between like the feed and M box, and like there's a little bit of a delay, but none that I've ever been like, ooh, I don't want to use Hey over. So
yeah, like who cares? Like, why does everything have to be like shipped on the edge of like a Cloudflare CDN? It's fine. It works. It's fine. It makes money. I think at the end of the day, like that's my argument.
I want to spend 2021 like keeping a list of all the things that trigger you. And then at the end of the year, just record a podcast where we go through line by line and bring them up and just listen to you talk for an hour. Because I love when you're like riled up.
I'm not easy to rile, but when I am, it's go time.
What else was there about this? So Turbo Links is, I mean, the Turbo without the links. I guess they call it the drive or whatever. It seems to still be the same.
It's just Turbo, but then now there's subcomponents of drive, frames, streams, native.
So for all intents and purposes, drive is what Turbo Links was, and then
yeah, I think so for the most part. Yeah, and there's not there's this Turbo native thing, but Strata is also listed as a thing for native. So I'm guessing that's some actual native code, or the toolkit around that. Like we have the TurboLinks iOS adapter and so on. I'm guessing that's what Strata is going to be, like the actual like mobile SDK or whatever. But there is Turbo native navigation in the controllers as a module, and it's got recede or redirect to, resume or redirect to, and things, which is interesting. So I guess we'll learn more about that stuff later.
Rob asked if my course is going to become a Hotwire course instead of a stimulus reflex course. that the short answer is no. There's a lot of work that would require me to start that over, but yeah,
I think there's a place for both.
Totally. You know? I someone was talking to me about that earlier. How like if I wanted to do one, like I could kind of show parallels between the two, but I was like, I gotta finish the first one before anything else is on my radar. But yeah.
So here's something we could talk about. What are some like interesting like use cases for this? Like, are they the same as stimulus reflex, or like? Because I'm thinking like, okay, after we get off this call, I'm gonna eat some Chipotle and then I want to play with this. So I don't want to build a chat application.
Get there.
Yeah, my Chipotle, I put it in the fridge because I decided eating on stream was probably not the best.
Oh, dude, cold Chipotle is the worst. But continue.
It's a burrito bowl, so it's already cold, I think. Chipotle's the worst anyway. I don't even know how I got it. What are we gonna build with this? Like, what are some interesting like use cases other
Everything.
than a chat app?
I'm building everything with this. That's
Take
it.
the sledgehammer, hit everything.
Yeah. No, I mean,
All right.
I want to
Rebuilding
build
Go Rails.
something. I want to build something that's complicated enough to hit some of the edge cases, or like undocumented areas that are like hard to figure out. I think that'll be interesting to figure out. There's always the like, here's the demo video, and it's like the happy path for everything, and you never see any of the weird edges. But I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot, because it is really similar to the same workflow you had with stimulus reflex or cable ready. Dr. Nick was saying on Twitter, like the nice part about stimulus reflex is that it just uses the current URL and re-renders, which is, you don't have to do any thinking with that, which is kind of nice. But it does have its downsides of like skipping the whole stack of Rails and going and injecting instance variables. So you end up rewriting, or you write your code for stimulus reflex differently. And this will be a different approach, as if probably you were only using cable ready, is more what this will feel like. So I think stimulus reflex, if you want to use that approach of setting instance variables from a reflex and rendering different things, it'll be still valuable on its own if you want to use that. But this also doesn't do all the helper methods that are common in cable ready, which you can set cookies and all that stuff, that this will probably never have support for. So maybe somebody can build a plugin that monkey patches those features in, like notifications or something. But I would have guessed that it's not going to try and support as many things as cable ready does. So if people want to stick with that, I think it'll be totally fine. It's still got its own value, and it's also been around for long enough that it's tried and true. So like how to use that, and there's lots of examples and support for that. If you dive directly into this, be prepared for some warts, kind of like we've seen with action text and active storage and whatever. Like just little things that like they built this for, hey, works great for what they're doing, but if you start deviating, then you might find some rough edges. So that's my guess, but we'll see. I'm excited to try it, but I need a good, I don't know, building a Hey or something as like a quick clone of that would be interesting. Like having the drop downs automatically, lazy load and whatever seems like a great little thing.
Those
There's
sweet
a lot of
animations.
cases for that. Yeah.
Those are the little things. Like even with reflex, like conceptually at a high level, this stuff is all very like simple, right? Like, oh, this is gonna make my life so much better, and it does. But you run into these edge cases, and like you said, like this isn't documented. Like these edge cases and how people work around them aren't really documented yet, and so yeah, it's not till you really like get in there and like grind your teeth that you can really like compare these things. And
This like I've done in the past a lot of those like js.erb responses, and like this is going to be awfully similar to doing that. So it's kind of interesting to see though the like how your controllers are going to change. I'm really curious about, I love how the broadcast to board or like room example in the screencast was like, it was just like, oh, it broadcasts changes and that's all I write. That's kind of crazy. So it seems really neat to be able to have it render the partials out of the box and just like go pipe updates and whatever. And I guess that just requires you to have what, like your DOM ID or something on the element.
Yeah, I guess so.
Some selector knows how to find it.
Remember when Matt tweeted yesterday about DOM ID, and then today it's like all over that video? It's like,
I use it constantly. Like I use that for my selectors for everything in Cable Ready.
Yeah,
So
we use it a lot at Podia.
yeah,
I used it in my course, but I used it not where I wanted to at the beginning, and so yeah, now I'm stuck with it in the wrong spot for a whole course because I don't want to re-record like 10 videos.
yeah, yeah. That's the worst. If you make a mistake in a video, then you're like, oh, it's kind of here forever, where I have to redo everything. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see that, and it does look like it is going to use DOM ID for that, and the model concerns here. There's quite a few methods for broadcasting changes: broadcast, remove, replace, append. So yeah, I mean, it seems like it'd be pretty simple to go add some of your own things, more like Cable Ready does, if you wanted to extend that. Turbo Streams Tag Builder. Tag Builder. So I guess this is for, let's see. So what was the name of that method, the helper method for the turbo frame tag generator thingy?
I don't remember. Let me go watch the video real quick.
Yeah.
I guess
Chat,
the turbo
chat.
I guess this turbo stream tag builder is mostly for the turbostream.erb file types.
I think it's broadcast 2. Broadcast 2 model name.
Matt was just saying, anyone know how the back button works with frames that are lazy loaded? Good question. I don't know.
Stupid back button, man. Why back button had to get so hard? It didn't have to be.
We could have just left it not being useful, like way back in the day.
Turbo frame tag.
Yeah, turbo frame tag. So the turbo stream tags, I guess, is just a way to render out your actions easily. Wonder if that outputs JavaScript or something.
I hope not.
I don't know.
That'll why wouldn't it output HTML?
Well, it's got actions and stuff. So I wonder if it's like kind of like your Cable Ready stuff, like a JSON object of here's the action and here's the HTML.
Matt just said form errors back button. Who needs them?
Matt's cracking me up right now. I'm not gonna lie.
But I mean, who does?
We need a way for JavaScript to just remove the back button on your website.
We should make a browser without navigation controls.
Yeah, there you go.
Just implement your own back button.
That's what I'm going to build is an Electron app using Turbo that just has an address bar and no back and forward button. There's my project.
Oh, Electron. You terrible software, you.
This is pretty simple. The turbo install script just inserts yield head, turbo include tags, and Redis. That's it.
I like that it gets Redis up and running for you, because I think that's something that we've had a little bit of issues with in Stimulus Reflex. It's like, okay, but you need to have Redis running, and some people are like, how do I do that?
Yeah, that's going to be, I mean, one of the things I'm going to like about this is, it makes regular AJAX requests, and then it's just mostly the responses sent over WebSockets, which has been like a pain point of mine with Stimulus Reflex. Using the WebSocket for running the request skips a few things, and it's not the same as an HTTP request. So if you're writing middleware and things, you gotta go manually change that and whatever. So it'll work out of the box with cookies and everything else, which is kind of nice. So it won't require any changes, which if you were adding Stimulus Reflex to something and had to switch to, session store in Redis or something, in production, that's not an easy change going from cookies to there. Log everybody out.
That's one of the reasons like we haven't swapped our store. I know that like it's a thing on our radar to maybe do. It probably won't be with Redis, but that's just such an overhaul. Like, are these events like submit end and submit start? Are those new events? Because I know TurboLinks has had events.
They would be for forms, yeah.
Okay.
Because they don't have any form support in TurboLinks. So yes, that would be new. And it looks like if you've got TurboLinks load events, just delete load from that and or TurboLinks, delete links. And the rest of those should be fine, which is nice. So it seems pretty simple. Like looking through the code for this, conceptually, it's not too much. There's not a lot of things. So I like this commit message here. This has been used in anger. and it's bumping from version 0.1 to 0.5.
Nice.
Hilarious.
This would have been the perfect project to just work in progress commit everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that DHH was like, yeah, we're using the old template version in the screencast for Hey, so they're not even running the latest version of this, which is kind of funny because they're all very like, we're using, Rails master in production or whatever. So, like, we'll see. I think it'll be good to see how much of this evolves as people pick it up and change things.
So one thing I wanted to circle back to was Matt talking about can you server React components, but it is like as someone who's been using React, like to have that be kind of announced and pushed yesterday, and then this announced and pushed today, like it's just really fascinating. I'm not gonna get into like a front end debate right now or anything like that, but the push for kind of more server rendered things, like it does feel a little simpler and like a happy path for a lot of people. So I'm encouraged by it.
Yeah, I mean, you better prepare yourself though, because like we got Rails 6.1, Hotwire, we got Ruby 3. What else came out? There's something else I'm forgetting, but expect no updates for the next like 5 years.
Yeah, it's done. They're gonna market whip and it's done.
Yeah, it's like beta forever. So yeah,
Sorry.
I'm just like I'm excited to try this, but dropping it right at the holidays makes it tough.
Yeah, well, good thing we're on lockdown because I'm probably not going home for Christmas, so maybe I'll just play with this all Christmas. The sad person I am.
I think that's kind of all I have on Turbo. I mean, we've talked about Stimulus too in the podcast.
Shout out podcast.
Shout out podcast. I will say I started using Stimulus 2 in my course without realizing it because it dropped, and it wasn't till I like used data target the old way in the console. It's like, hey, you're an idiot. Yeah. I was like, I'm using Stimulus 2, and so I really do appreciate, like, though maybe it kind of moves slower than we'd like the backwards compatibility focus is nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, they admitted they don't use it like they thought they would, because I think Hotwire approach does so much that, yeah, I mean, and you definitely do have certain situations of like, oh, maybe we need to detect the browser time zone and save that in a hidden field or something. Perfect little use case for a stimulus controller, but building Hey is not, that's the thing, that building Hey and Basecamp are like, they're definitely complicated in some areas, but they're also like pretty trivial in other areas, or in kind of in general, maybe like they're not building something like Slack where you're trying to support probably a channel with 10,000 people in it or something or whatever, like some of those things are probably a bit more pushing the boundaries. So, you see those things kind of, their designs are made for their products and extracting that stuff out. So fits that really well, but I'll be curious to see, people using it in ways it wasn't built for, seeing where those boundaries are.
Totally. So, I think our noise might have blown some headphones.
You're welcome.
I turned it down a little bit. We'll see if it's less. There we go. It's a little better. Cool. Well, this was fun and new for us. It only took us an hour to figure out how to turn on. So,
yeah. We code. If you didn't know that, we do things on the internet.
We're not professional Twitch streamers yet, but we will be.
No, we don't have any. No.
Hey,
anyways,
at least for the next 13
check
days.
us out on OnlyFans.
Yeah, subscribe to OnlyFans. Follow the podcast.
I have a 14-day trial, so we have 13 days to stream as much as we want. But
perfect.
On OnlyFans?
Yeah, totally. All right.
OnlyFans.
Well,
where we're gonna unbox software
before my life turns to shambles. Cool. This was fun. We'll wrap this up and make it a podcast and release it. But
cool. All righty.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks everybody who came and hung out with us. And if you're just listening to this later, thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Later.
Rock on. Go Hamill.
Where's the end button?
Go Hamill. Hamill all day. Hamill all life.
Oh, Lord.
All day. All night.